Hello and a warm welcome back to the WenDirkCast with me, Jimbo. As always, we'll be discussing Let's MFL updates, transfers, developments, and so much more that has gone on over the last week or so. One important note before we kick things off: none of what we chat about is financial advice. Do your own scouting or hire a director of Metaverse football. I'm just going to preface the whole episode. I am slightly ill, which is why I might sound different. I might look different. You know, I'm always looking good, but I might look a bit worse. Maybe as the episode goes on, my energy being used up. So I do apologize for that, but I'm still going to try my best because that's what we've got to do. Enough of that. I don't want a sympathy vote. Enough of that. Joining me to talk about Club Delegation and all things MFL can only be one person with the biggest agency in MFL. It is Mr. Trust the Process. Welcome, sir. How are you?
Doing great. Great to be here. I've been looking forward to coming back on. I think last time I was here, you said when you get to 100, we'll have you back on. And now we're at 120 something, and we made it. Ready for Club Delegation.
I think when we last had you on, I want to say it might have been an episode after Calver ended up leaving. It went on paternity. And I brought yourself and Ron John on because I wanted the agency with the most clubs, the agency with the most players. Although arguably, I'm going to consider you the biggest agency out there because even though you have the second most amount of players, you've got the most amount of clubs by some distance. And if we just sort of assume 25 players per club and add that to your total, I think you outdo Ron John then. But so our class was the biggest agency. And obviously when it comes to Club Delegation, then you're going to be someone who's particularly interested in it because you have a lot of clubs. I think as it stands, 122/123 because Hamed is looking after one. I can't quite remember how many you were on last time you were on the show.
I don't know either.
No, it's just a number's a blur, right?
It is a blur. It just happens so fast.
And you just sort of pick up a club as they come on the marketplace and you go, oh, that's number, I don't know, that's number.
Whatever. Yeah, they used to have more meaning and now they're just numbers.
But we've got Trust on. We're going to talk about Club Delegation, everything MFL. Because like I said, I don't think there's any better person to have on really for something about delegation and clubs as him. So thanks to everyone who joined in the Match Day 1 stream on Wednesday. Apologise there wasn't one on Thursday and Friday, being ill and still sort of stuff in the house. We're sort of still getting that routine and figuring things out. By the time you've listened to this, hopefully I've done a IMFF Cup Group Stage 1 stream, and then there'll be some other ones during the week. But yeah, thank you to everyone who tuned in. It was great to sort of start season 11. My team started off with a bit of a bang, and this all went downhill quite quickly from there, but we'll come to that in a second. Trust, we always like to do a moment of the week. I'm sure you're aware, you're an avid listener, big fan of the pod. Our moment of the week, or how's your opening? We are now coming up to match day 5 of season 11. How's the first 4 match days, or this week, been for you and your agency?
It's been a bit of hit and miss. I would say there's just one club I really want to see promote to bronze, and it's not been a great start. I don't know how upset you'd be because it's a 5 at the back club.
Not to upset them.
But what I'm trying to do in this club, it's my Philly B club. It's an iron, and it's in that ladder rung below your Wyverns. And so I'm trying to get that one promoted first and foremost so I can get up to that league with all you guys in it.
Yeah.
That'll be a lot of fun to be in there. But it's not started off well, despite some testing, which I'm sure we'll get into later. I had some higher hopes. But nonetheless, I have 3 other iron clubs and they're doing all right. The Norwich club, that's one of my other iron license, has been going pretty well.
Yep.
And I had my first ever, this was the moment of the week for me, was I had my first ever ultimate card.
Whoa.
Had a 94 turn into a 95 a couple of days ago. My first thought was, oh, that's my moment of the week to tell the WenDirkCast.
Yeah, it's a hell of a moment. What player is it?
Guillot, it's something that's, I think it's French.
We don't care then. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, he's a French right mid, and he's progressed well over the last couple of seasons, so it should be hopefully something that doesn't stop. I'm hoping he gets to 96, 97. No retirement badge yet either, so that's a good sign.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's definitely. I don't really think I can outdo that moment of the week. Um, no, I can't. I can't. So, but then, okay. We would like to say, how would you rate your week so far on a scale of 1 to 10? What would you
Yeah,
say?
I would say 7.
7. Okay, no, that's definitely not the answer everyone gives when they're unsure. I don't want to go too low, but I don't want to go too high. Everyone says a 7, but seven's
Yeah,
respectable.
it's
Uh,
nice to
res-
have MFL back and matches going again. Had that ultimate go. Some teams are performing as well. My common farm that I kind of spit out a bunch of players into. There's been some people that are developing well, but some that aren't showing early signs, and so I was
mm,
hoping for a little more quick sprouts. But yeah, we maybe get talking about that more later. But it's been some good, some bad so far.
yeah. Did you enjoy having a slightly longer off season with the end of the Holiday Heroes event of season 11? Was that quite nice for you?
Yeah, so I was actually out of state. We were on family vacation, and so we were in San Diego. I live in Philadelphia, so it's the other side of the
Yeah, it's a
U.S.
hell of a track. Yeah.
We're just like walking from place to place, and here I am on my phone, just like opening common players as I walk. Just like gotta like just push through this because it takes a long time to buy 400 and then open 400.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, there's no buy all button or open all button.
I was gonna say, what is it? Is it worse the wait having to buy them, or worse the wait when you open them and like before the reveal happens? If that
Mm.
makes sense.
I would say
Or they're the same.
I'm trying to make just rephrase the question.
So
So
you
you're
know when
saying,
when
yeah,
you buy the pack and you have to go through that process of buy, oh, your
mm,
balance is going to be this afterwards, and you keep doing that process. Which is more boring or more tedious to go experience of that, or when you have to like open a pack and that
mm.
moment, that build up when you've got to click the approve or confirm, wait for it to all load, and then you get to tap on it. Which one's
It takes so much more time to open a player than it does to buy a pack. And so I'm going to say open the player is the more tedious and annoying process.
are you saying that we should do like pack delegation and you can just let someone else open your packs? So you still own the player and own the pack, but you just be like, right, I can't open all these 400 packs. Does anyone want to sort of, open them for me? And obviously I still get the player.
I don't know who'd sign up for that, but maybe.
I mean, it's one of those things that maybe
Yeah.
Yaks might go, I'll just do it in a day. I'll just figure it out. You just
Just
someone
send a message
requests
to
to
you.
open your
Hey, can you
pack.
please just open all 400 of these packs for me
Yeah,
and see if that works?
that would be good. Yeah, just open them all. Just open all the packs for me. I can't do them myself. Um, but no, I think it seems quite divided. People were either really not really happy, but they were kind of happy to have a little bit of an extended break, and some were sort of scratching at the neck and scratching their wrists and arms, being like, I just want to get back into games and progression. And then ultimately we get progression on that Wednesday morning, and you get the poor people going, has training actually started yet? And you go, I've got some bad news for you, mate. It's already over. It's already over. So but yeah, no, 7 out of 10 is pretty good. My week, I'm gonna just say I'm gonna go number first. I'm gonna say 6. Um, results wise, it's been okay. The second team, the Wents and Worms, they are joint top of Stone. They've won their opening 4 games, although we're playing like the projected first tonight. We are projected fourth. The guy who's projected top has a this is in Stone, by the way. He's got like a bunch of low 80s, like 83, 83, 82, which is like, oh damn, that's pretty good for Stone. And then you realize he's got an 89 rated striker in there. And you're like, well, how do I, with a back four averaging 76 and a goalkeeper of 77 or so, how do I compete when this bloke captains his 89 rated striker? So he's got like 97 shooting. I'm like, is it even worth captaining my goalkeeper then? Like, is that going to make a difference? No, I'd rather like be on the offensive a bit more. So hopefully by the time we listen to this, I've not lost. I'd like not to lose that. The Wents and Wyverns won their opening game against Quinny 3-0. That was on stream. I was like really hopeful, and then we've just drawn every game since, which is a bit underwhelming. And drew against Calver in the WenDirkCast, which we've not had for a while. I was 2-0 up, and then he clawed it back to 2, which was frustrating. And it's been a bit of a weird one, really. But the saving grace, a bit like you and your progression from with getting ultimate status, I've actually enjoyed some quite nice early progression from the Wyverns. I've already got 4+1s across the team, which we know we're talking 85 to 86, or two 85s to an 86. We've got an 86 and 87 twice. One of them being my goalkeeper, which an 87 rated goalkeeper is very nice. But the main one is my right back, 86 rated right back, but he's a 90 at centre back, which is quite OP. Because he's a right back by primary, he gets quite a nice distribution of stats, which really sort of help and promote the play style I want to play within my three at the back. So he's got like 77 passing, 75 pace. He's 6'2", and just sort of those sort of attributes mean if I want to play out from the back or play controlled, I've not got a centre back who's got I'm going to say 2 left feet. He's right footed, so maybe that kind of makes sense. But I'm he's still a couple of stats away from going up to a 91, and he's getting at the point now where I'm thinking, do I offload him to silver, because I could probably get even high end silver could still get a decent rating for him. He's 24 years old, and he was minted at 22, and he was minted as an 80 rated. So I think I've got really high expectations for this guy. Like,
as you should, probably. Yeah.
I think if he continues on with his current trajectory, if I just sort of add like +4s to every stat, which I know is a bit outlandish, that's what I love using Ali's MFL player info for, just going, well, he's already gained 5 physical. Let me just add another 5 to that. And if I do a little bit of silliness and maybe some reserved speculation, he could end up being like an 89 rated right back at a minimum sort of thing. And that makes him like a 93 centre back. And I'm like, I can't have that player in bronze forever. That has to offload. And that could be even offload to like a platinum or a high end gold, depending on what retirement's do in like 4 or 5 seasons time. But I say it's a 6 because I was a 6 out of 10, because I'm a bit down about the whole Wyvern situation, because we've been leading or we've not been performing well. I've made a few changes with some tactics with the engine, which we'll have a little bit of a chat about in a short while. But a 6 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, what's nice about that out of position player too is that you can at least play him in your agency for now and not feel like you're hurting his progression, right? Because he's training as his lower overall. But yeah, I have a CDM that's a few points higher. That's like goes from something that can be used in iron or bronze to silver or gold, depending on what it is. But I stuck him in iron this year on my Philly club because I'm trying to promote him so bad.
Yeah.
And it might be all for naught.
I just looked, it's Iron League 15 you're in. So yeah, if you were to get promoted, you'd come into Bronze 8, which is a very competitive Bronze League. I'm not sure how competitive it is compared to the other Bronze divisions now, or Bronze Leagues now, but I know good 5-6 seasons ago, in terms of like strength, and in that league, it was one of the strongest, like top 2, top 3 strongest Bronze Leagues. That was when FC Cincinnati was in there by Profound Soda, but I think he's died another day sort of thing.
I feel like that's felt down the pyramid too, because I feel like that Iron League itself is also challenging, because it's harder. You fall down from bronze whenever you're still probably an Iron caliber team in a strong Iron League. So yeah, I was in the league with Quinny's Barcelona last season, and he had won the league, and I think I got second or something. No, that was a different league. We were in his top 2 teams. I was in a league with him with, but yeah, hopefully we can turn around the rest of the season.
Yeah, nice. So you had a 7, I had a 6, 13 out of 20. Room for improvement. It's the first week.
Worse than a 6 and a 7.
Yeah, I know. 13 out of 20 sounds like we've had horrendous weeks, but we've got one more day of the week, which is a Sunday evening now, so things might change. So right, let's go on to dev updates then. So it's quite a lengthy one, to be fair, with some nice screenshots in it. Thank you, Yax, for including visuals. They are always greatly appreciated and allow us to speculate and drool over updates. 2 engine patches were deployed this week, addressing edge case issues that occurred only in very rare situations. These fixes do not impact the overall simulation outside of those specific cases. put your tinfoil hats on, whether or not you believe that, because some people were like, "Oh, this patch a day before has scuppered my tactics." And get on that tinfoil hat and conspiracy theory bandwagon. Good progress was made on the energy and experience models in preparation for future substitution mechanics. The model is now finalized and implemented. It will be released once substitutions become available. And again, we will make the assumption, I think we kind of know this will be preset substitutions. I know we've spoken to lots of people before, and they've gone, if they were ever live substitutions, it would force people to scale down considerably, if not sell out. Trust, I imagine if there was ever live substitutions, which touch wood, is there any wood in this house? That's got to be wood. Touch wood, there won't be. Would you scale down considerably if they ever did go down the live substitution route?
Yeah, that or I'd just be delegating out a lot more. That is terrifying. Think about live subs. Absolutely terrifying.
And I think even if people only gained like a 1% advantage through live subs, it would be enough for people to think it's an advantage. Well, obviously it would be an advantage, but people were like, well, I can't be at my games live. It's not fair. It's a global game. It's a global community. So I think they've made the sensible decision to go down with the pre-made substitutions. So yeah, I'm glad they're going to go down that route. Unless they throw a curveball now, it's actually live substitutions, but hopefully not. Development environment improvements. Continued improvements to our development tools and infrastructure. Lovely jubbly. Our development environment has been fully migrated to the new infrastructure. We plan to roll this out to production during the mid-season transfer window. A short downtime, of a few hours is expected. How else are we going to cope with no MFL site? This upgrade should improve performance when loading large data sets, such as agencies with many players, reduce the risk of matches starting late, which is a big tick, and bring several other benefits. Because I always joke on stream or anything, I feel really sorry for you and Ron John in particular because of how big your agencies are. People are like, oh, but training's not done, progression's nerfed. Oh, go check Ron John and Trust's agencies, and they'll, a nice benchmark guideline to see how progression's been. Well, good luck loading it to find out in the first place because it takes so bloody long. I'm guessing that's a development that you're very happy to hear about.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's been something new. I don't know about the whole blockchain stuff and everything that, like, with a different provider or something. There was something going on there where I feel like how like the minting was slower for a while.
Yep.
I feel like something happened and agencies loading got slower because I've noticed even a significant decrease or significant increase in time it takes to load my agency recently, which has been a challenge whenever I'm trying to go back and forth for different things. Just been leaving tabs open, but yeah, that was great to see.
Yeah, I think it's a really great one. Obviously, it won't affect me particularly with the large agencies. Maybe one day. But if it can sort of speed little things up, like little quality of life. Matches starting late, I think, is a big one because sometimes they buffer when you're doing testing. It like hits the 15th minute or the 5th minute or any particular time, and suddenly it starts buffering. You've got to refresh. It's just so small things being fixed. CMS, which is probably like content management system, I'm assuming, currently updating banners, blog posts, and embedded streams requires a developer. We've started work on a CMS that will allow MFL admins to manage his content independently, which is really, really great. The system is expected to be in place by the end of the week. And then some of the final bits, minor improvements, which are minor improvements, but I think are still pretty big. You can now quickly view players near retirement in your HQ via a new checkbox under the age filter. Very great. Players near retirement can also be hidden in the marketplace and scouting center, which is an unbelievable development, particularly with the marketplace. Have all my filters, and now I can add that filter onto it. I like to look at particular sort of players above sort of like age, minimum age 28, 29 with particular criteria. And I'm like, oh, like he's a good player, but he's retiring in 3 seasons or 2 seasons of 1 season. I can just get rid of them now, which is brilliant. As widely requested, a small select all options have been added for nationalities. Multiple small bug fixes have been deployed. Emails. We currently don't have email addresses for many of you. We've been working on the possibility to let you easily update your email. This should be released next week. Interesting. And then finally, Club Delegation. Continued progress on Club Delegation with UI improvements and additional bug fixes underway. And I'm no expert when it comes to the timeline of features in MFL, but if they're doing additional bug fixes and it's just UI improvements, I would, if I could sniff the progress and how close we are to it being released, it smells like it's pretty close. Do you also have the same opinion, Trust?
I've had the same opinion for a couple seasons now.
I was going to say,
But
a couple of years, and we'd all probably agree.
yeah, I feel like it's been close now since it was brought up on that one State MFL podcast. I feel like several months ago. But this is even more promising with the screenshots. But just to kind of circle back to the minor improvements too,
Mhm.
I would be curious if they're looking to add, because you can filter out near retiring players whenever you're in the marketplace. Can you? I wish you could filter them out when you're in your own HQ, because it's either in your HQ you can filter and see only retiring players, but you can't filter them out yet. But hopefully that's coming soon.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah, I mean the club delegation, it's a fantastic screenshot. I mean, there's still a lot to be known, but that gives us a lot of information at the same time.
Yeah, there's a lot on there which, if people want to learn a bit more about Trust's views on club delegation from a few months, probably about a month ago, 6-7 weeks ago, he was on with MFL with Laird, and they were talking about club delegation, how it will change MFL. And one of your questions on there, for example, was will the manager who's managing the club that delegated to be able to sign players? Because that was one of your concerns, right? Was that you want to be able to sign 17 players, basically give them the club with everything they need to be able to play the game, not have to worry about signing players. And your concern was, well, if they can sign players, then what's stopping them from signing their own player or any other player and giving it 20% rev share, and then all your revenue is gone. But it looks like when we look at that screenshot, you've got permissions, which says permissions can be changed at any time by the club owner. And the options are manage contracts, contract offers, competitions, social, which I want to speculate about, contracts, tactics, and branding. So we've got on there contracts, manager contracts, contract offers. That looks like you can basically delegate to someone and not have to worry about them putting on players. So I guess that's a big sigh of relief for you, and that's one question being answered, right?
Yeah, yeah. The biggest concern part of that was the fact of I want to have that 17-man roster, and I want to have them be able to develop. And so I wasn't as concerned about giving rev share away. Yes, that's part of it, but for these Flint and Spark clubs where rev isn't really the main reason why you have them, I was more concerned about other players being able to be signed, and all of a sudden these guys I wanted to get 20 games are now getting 10. Um, and the contract says then I get the rev share. That doesn't really change anything
Yeah,
if I'm the
exactly.
one having it in the first place.
Yeah. So it also says manager title. You can have one called vice president. So I'm guessing maybe, I'm not sure if that's you just get to pick the title for someone or if particular titles have particular permissions with it. So if you pick like sporting director, it might not allow you to do branding or tactics, for example. You could just do the ingoings and outgoings of players because that's what a particular sporting director would be looking at, or maybe maybe it's just a title. Maybe you want to be called a vice president, or maybe you want to be called a president. Because I know in particular clubs around the world, thinking like Real Madrid and some of those Spanish clubs, they have presidents and vice presidents. Over in England, we don't necessarily have that set up. And then obviously the second screenshot is basically saying what it looks like from the inbox point of view, where you get to see what the permissions are being set, the rev share, the division. But the one thing I wanted to speculate on is that there's one permission which says social, which there's two ways I'm looking at this. One of them is being conservative, one of them is being kind of crazy, but maybe, it has some legs to it. Is that the social, is that just the ability for that manager to maybe like in the match generate the templates of social media images? But the other one is that there was a dev update back in early December where they showed the UI for the HQ, and Laird pointed this out, and I was interested by it as well. On the left hand side, it said MFL World, and like, what is MFL World, and is that like a social part website? I wonder if the social permission for the club delegation has some sort of connection to the MFL World. I don't know. It sounds like those two could be connected. I would have thought that if you could just generate I mean, it might just be you can generate some of the social media templates, but let's put our optimistic hat on here and speculate. Maybe it's more and it's something to connect to the MFL world. Do you think I'm being crazy there, or am I
No,
reaching?
I think it's interesting because the fact like you look at the different games. Like I was limited really to playing like FIFA, Madden were like my two main video games growing up as far as sports goes, and you had like social interactions on those on occasion, right? Like your
Mm,
players could, I don't know, do media interviews, media requests. I don't see why clubs couldn't do the same thing in this game. I think that'd be
yeah,
really cool.
yeah. We have the option to do branding as a permission. I wonder how these club delegations get cancelled, because I could totally see someone just giving permission to someone to use branding just because they've got more MFL and then just rebranding it and chucking it back, which might be a perfectly fine thing to do. There's nothing stopping a manager airdropping a club, which you can do now to someone else, then rebranding and sending it back. So I guess there's nothing really there, but you could imagine maybe, you know, someone like Big Will sets up a branding service where I'll be like, oh, delegate your club to me, I'll rebrand it for, a 5% fee or one of my players or something, and then give it back to you. But it's good to see there's quite a few different permissions there. We've got 7. But we will talk more about club delegation and how it might impact MFL, how Trust views it with all his 122.5, we'll call it, clubs. Is there anything else you want to discuss on the development dev center? Oh my word, dev update side before we transition over? Oh, do we want to talk about the engine quickly whilst we're here? Let's. So I think, you know, I'm no expert when it comes to the engine. I always preface that. I do enough tinkering to still keep myself having fun whilst playing. I don't try and deep it too much. Trust. I can only imagine with the amount of clubs you have and the amount of variables involved in all those clubs that you probably have some kind of a little bit the same attitude towards tactics and things like that.
Yeah, I really have been trying this. This is the most friendlies I've ever run in an off season. It sounds like it was the worst time to do that because as people are saying, it wasn't too relevant. Um, but yeah, I'm not a tactician. I've tried to do better, but I'm trying to run more and more because I think this off season I really try to condense what formations I use.
Yeah.
I was just going to copy paste tactics from one team to
Mm.
another. But I don't know if you can hear that my son's coming down the hallway.
Oh, that's all right.
He's crawling. But
Oh, bless him.
yeah, no, it's one of those things where whenever I have seen some more stuff in Discord recently about the engine and critiques, I was like, I feel like that's gonna be something people want us to discuss on WenDirk, but I feel very disqualified to talk about it.
Yeah, I'll admit I sometimes feel a bit imposter syndrome in that sense as well, because I can have the opinion, but I don't think I've got a very credible opinion on the engine because I don't do crazy amounts of testing. But I think maybe because of that, I can comment on it a little bit and say what maybe like the average person thinks about it, because I don't do crazy lots of testing and tactical analysis, but there are people who do, and it seems even those people have been a bit frustrated with the engine. Let's just put in the spotlight Bruce, for example, 1/3 of the Yorkshire XP, who was quite vocal about his opinions on the patch and how it doesn't have any impact on the engine, but it seemed like it did, and other and as someone does a lot of testing, to feel like that it's changed somewhat, probably, I'm not saying it has or it hasn't, tinfoil hat, but I will admit that what I got lots of things to say. Yeah, let me just try and do the smallest ones first and the biggest ones at the end. You could tell who hadn't done any testing by the people who were shocked that they were getting 4-5 flip flaps or elasticos on their screen every game. Because if you had done any testing, you knew that was a feature, because it was quite clear just from one game you could watch that every player on the wing, whether it be on their own halfway line or in the box, was doing this flip flap shenanigans, which I'm a little bit tired of, but there we go. I think it's probably one of the visual elements to the engine, where the underlying engine's probably fine, but the visual, how that translates to visually for us is maybe a bit weird. So those people who were confused about that clearly hadn't done any testing, and that was quite clear. And I found that funny. But I think the sentiment towards the engine has been the most vocal it has been since I can remember. Maybe where we had season 1 or season 3 or season 2, one of the early ones where it was like indirect free kicks, it was, pace, it was this, that, the other. But it seemed like, it felt like since Flint games kicked off on Wednesday evening or Thursday evening for the second match day, people were like, oh my God, this. And I can't remember, Trust, unless you can, a time where people have been this vocal about the engine in a particularly negative way at the same time.
Yeah, frankly, it's been one of the reasons why I've not been actually on top of Discord. I still check Discord every now and then, but
Yeah.
I'm getting kind of tired of the complaints, to be honest. Because there's nothing really to be done about it at this point. People are upset. I understand that and think they have a right to their own voice in that sense, but I'm also tired of hearing that voice. But the good news is too, as far as concerns about the engine and everything, and maybe our not having the really credibility to talk about it. The great thing is, and I think part of the reason at the same time why we're having more complaints, there's been a lot more engine focused content that's been created over the last couple of seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think more people are talking about it, more people are engaged with it. And so I think there's more opportunity for complaints because there are more users than ever that I think that are engine focused than they were before. I could be wrong, but that's kind of also something I'd throw out there.
Yeah, and you could say that if they want more engine focused content, people testing more, people getting to grips with how to play the game more. If they've only been in the game for 3-4 seasons, this could be the time when they're getting used to the engine and how it changes and evolves. They're getting better at managing, their teams and their tactics. Are they increasing their own level? Is the floor, the average person, now a bit more tactically aware than previous seasons? And I said to you just before this as well, if we remove the draw element to the game, it's a zero-sum game, because if you beat me 5-0, you're happy, and I'm the one vocal on Discord going, oh, those engines useless, etc. So for everyone that's losing, someone is winning and they're happy with the engine. But I guess maybe this is the season where those who do a lot of testing of the engine really prove themselves, because if they can tweak things quickly and understand it a bit more, then they'll turn those results and they'll get those performances, and they can really prove to everyone that they are, the head honchos, the tactic maestros. But at the same time, I think some people are just sort of like, well, from a defensive point of view, it's a bit shambolic at times, and you don't really know what to do. It's like, I will agree, some of them from a visual point of view, some of the marking defensive setups seem a bit out of touch and a bit confusing confusing is probably too kind, it just frustrating, I think, at points. And I think you sometimes have to remove the emotional side to it, which is very hard when a game that some people have a lot of money put into, and effectively, let's just take let's transition to the Diamond League quickly, and we'll just take Diamond as an example, and I'll share my screen for the Diamond League. You've got someone like Bob's Soul Iron Pigs, and they played Meta Mercenaries, and Meta had Meta had 11 men. What an awful way of saying it. Soul Iron Pigs went down to 10 men, and even with a man advantage, I don't think people really consider like a 7-0 scoreline to particularly happen, but it did. And people are getting very vocal about it. Well, the engine feedback's probably seen the most messages it's said in a long while. So I'm not sure what more I want to add to it from my side, but what about you?
Yeah, and I do want to, I'm kind of tired of seeing it in general, but I also don't want to discredit people that are kind of frustrated by it in the fact that in the way, like, if progression and how progression worked changed every season or every other season,
Mm-hmm.
and something happened where something drastically changed or I couldn't figure it out, I would be frustrated too. And so I'm not saying like their voice isn't something that they should be feeling free to express their frustrations, especially if something that's what they find joy in this game is by analyzing the engine and finding it out. And if it seems unsolvable for one reason or another, I can definitely imagine how frustrating that would be. And so, yeah, I don't want to come off as someone that doesn't understand, because I would definitely have some issues if, all right, this is how development works, and it changes every other season.
Oh yeah, I agree. I 100% sympathise with people who put in a lot of effort into tactics, into testing, into gaining that extra edge over other managers, because you put in the time, you should be rewarded if you're doing it the proper way. Chance favors the prepared, the stupid quote I quote every bloody season. I can never tell you who it's from. But if those people are getting frustrated consistently, then maybe there needs to be some things tweaking. It seems that with so much advancement and development on the attacking side of the match engine, that the opportunity cost of that development is the defensive side, which has been left wandering. Quite literally, your players are wandering nowhere, it seems. It's basically like, right, can I just try and get the most out of my offensive part of my game in possession and just hope that my out of possession is better than theirs, basically. But right, let's go to the Diamond League, because we've got a very peculiar table. At the top, with 4 wins out of 4, with a goal difference of 17, scoring 19, conceding only 2, is Meta Mercenaries by Ronan. Four games, 4 wins, 12 points. 3 points behind him in second is Dio's Amsterdam Lions. Sid's third with Los Galacticos with 9 points as well. And then going on the table, we've got Sao Paulo, Tango, Bashoni Milano, Soul Iron Pigs, GTA Ontario, MFC Napoli, La Furia Espanola, managed by Kev, who I want to just talk about quickly after this. And then the 2 BFC teams, BFC Barcelona and BFC Manchester, ending the table on the bottom 2 there. We had some newbies into the division this season, which is BFC Barcelona, La Furia Espanola. Well, kind of not. Yeah, they are new. It's Kev's managing the team. MFC Napoli and GTA Ontario. Taggart won the BFC face-off. What was it? I can't remember the score now. It was one of the most recent games, I think. But I'm pretty sure he won it. Let me have a look. It was 3-1. So that was Taggart versus Joker. Kev had a cracking start to the season, beating Bishoni Milano 2-0, which Bishoni Milano is one of the top 3 teams in Diamond. He beat him quite comfortably, like a shutout result, which I was shocked about, but then knowing Kev and his tactical prowess, I was not shocked about one bit. And I was pretty happy for him. And then go losers 3 in a row, which is kind of, that's the life in Diamond. You get a good result and then you just get thumped back down. The biggest shock so far has probably been Bob's Soul Iron Pigs, which they won the opening game 6-1 against BFC Barcelona, then go lose 1-0 to Sao Paulo. Okay, yeah, sure. Team 7-0 to Meta, which probably no one would have expected. And then only edged a 3-2 win against MFC Napoli by build. I think he was 2-0 down and then came back to win 3-2. And if he hadn't won that game, he'd currently be sitting potentially in the relegation zone, which is kind of crazy to think of. Trust, obviously, it's been quite a few seasons since you were in Diamonds, whether that be your own team with the trust the process rule that came out for minimum overrules off the back of it, or as like a collective DAO with yourself, Big Wilb and Ron John, right? Have you been keeping an eye on Diamond recently, and what's your thoughts on all of it?
Oh yeah, I mean, any day for us, it's 5:00 Eastern in the US. Usually, when my day is ending, I'll pull up the Sao Paulo game. I have, I forget the exact route. I think it's like 13% rev share in Sao Paulo. It's the only one I have investment in Diamond, and so for me, it's something I like to watch and root for. So yeah, watch that game against Bob, and it is funny to watch Sao Paulo because if you look at it, he has 2 goals, 2-4. I think, yeah, 2. What was it? Yeah, 2.
Yeah, he's only scored 2 and he's conceded 2. He lost the first game 2-0 and then won 1-0, then drew 0-0 and then won 1-0. Yeah,
the defense is stifling. Yeah, no, in that 1-0 draw, I think it was 0.16 or something like that XG allowed, something extremely low. And I was messaging him afterwards. I was like, man, we feel like we should have got that one. It's fun just to have vested interest. 0.06. Yeah. So his main center defensive mid is my player, along with a left mid center mid who I don't actually know if he's gotten playing time yet, but he's older and I'm sure he's probably saving him for like cup stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've been watching those games and really not much else. For me, it's just a matter of, I think a lot of agents invested interest in certain things, whether it be someone that you have conversations with, and obviously I'm rooting for Big as well, just with our partnership
Mhm.
and on the plat side, and so I hope he does well too.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah, I think it's just a matter of who you talk to and whatnot, and why you're
Yeah.
interested or not.
If
Um,
if
but yeah,
before the season has started, if I was to ask you the question, who do you think will win Diamond, irrespective of what the league looks like now, who would you have said?
I was actually going to go with Galacticos as kind of like a
Oh,
dark
okay,
horse,
yeah.
not really for any reason besides the fact he's the one that won the what
The
was it called?
Masters,
Yeah,
yeah, they won the Masters against Bob's, like 5-3 or 5-2, yeah.
I saw that, and I also saw his team. And I don't know if he added players for Holiday Heroes or not, but it seemed like he had turned some stuff around. At least, like I know he wasn't that high in the table, I don't think, last season. Um, but now it's just hard to vote against Meta. But
Mm,
Galacticos has been doing pretty well. So
yeah.
um,
And would that opinion and prediction still change based off the opening 4 matches?
I would probably have to go with Ronin on some level. Um, but I like seeing. I mean, obviously, Sao Paulo being in fourth looks great, and I hope that we're surprised in the season to see top three
Mm,
or higher. But it's hard to pick against Ronin right now,
yeah,
um, even if that goal differential would be a little inflated. Um,
yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, he plays La Fury Espinola, Kev's Diamond team tonight, and obviously by the time we listen to this, that result would have already happened. So this is kind of where Diamond gets a bit awkward on the Sunday night, because sometimes we don't get a game on Sunday night, sometimes we do. So we kind of are like a day early speaking about things, or different time. But Roden could be 5-5, 15 points. If any of that top three was to, or remaining three teams at the top was to drop points, then I feel like if you let Roden grab a 6-7 point lead this early in the season with the current flow of momentum, is he gonna just pull away? But go on.
yeah, I think I forget what it was for MFL stats or whatever that website is. How did these rankings kind of come out based off of just purely overall expectations?
Let's have a look. MFL stats. I need to sneeze, but hopefully I don't need to. 10, 4, 7, 9. So in the projections, let me share this tab instead when it loads. Come on, MFL stats. So if we look at the projections based on best 11, it's Meta, Soul it's Meta Mercer, Soul Iron Pigs, Bashoni Milano, and then Sid's Los Galacticos. So, and then how it currently is. I mean, the biggest underperformers right now, you would argue, are BFC Manchester, Bashoni Milano, and Soul Iron Pigs. Sao Paulo being a key overperformer based on projections. I mean, this is all just numbers. And I guess you obviously the engine to an extent is numbers, but I mean, obviously progression plays an influence. Sao Paulo already getting a +2, which at these sort of levels is a pretty big progression milestone to hit. But
Yeah, I will say I do expect Bob to be at least top five by the end of this. It's hard to see that not happening. And yeah, that 3-2 narrow win over Napoli is surprising. I'm just curious if he rotated and just got away with it after kind of almost giving the game away.
yeah,
Um, just feel like he's going to figure this thing out as time goes on.
yeah, I don't think I would go as far as say I think we still see Bob top 3.
Yeah,
I think when you've got, I know Beckman's in his, his first of the 3 seasons that he's got left in the game. Sad. Well, not if you're Ronan, you're over the
because it
moon.
depends on who you ask.
You're
Yeah,
pump fist in the air like, come on, come on.
the rest of the
Um,
Diamond Managers, I'm sure, are pretty happy. Yeah,
yeah, particularly in that final season where he's going to have to kind of rotate him a bit more and manage his minutes. I still expect Bob to be, the use of classic football phrase, there or thereabouts in the top of the table. So, I mean, so far it's been quite tasty in terms of some of the results. But then I think this is where quite a few Diamond managers get frustrated because you can make changes, make tweaks. and then it seems like I think to summarize the whole engine piece is people like to try and grasp the engine and get an understanding of how it works and use that to their advantage. Some people who are testing a lot just seem like they're not being able to get that edge. They don't really understand. They can't break it down. They can't decipher what's needed to tweak things to benefit you because of the V word, the variance, the outcomes. Doesn't make sense. I think is probably a nice way to end on the engine talk. Some of the things just don't make sense, but maybe that's the way it's supposed to be. Whoa, tinfoil hat.
That's life, though, right? So
that is life. It is life. If you've got it all figured out, you probably haven't. And I think I said maybe years. I can say years ago now because you've done this pod for so long. Years ago, I'd always be like, if someone says they've figured out the engine, they are lying to you because no one can like officially figure it out. No one can. Not in a current development state that it's in. People can get to know it a bit better, but they can't figure it out unless you know how to do cutback meta like last season. But that's not
which I didn't find out about until way too late. And we started talking about it like the last 2 weeks, and I'm like, where has this been, guys? Or even maybe it was like during the Masters I first heard about it. Oh well.
Right, so we're now going to move on to the market moves, which currently, as it stands, is just splash of the week, which I hope that sounds as elegant, as graceful as it does without an illness. But this week's splash of the week is a player called Nestor Carmona, 95 overall, bought for $700 by Sid, being sold by American news, I believe, by the name of Harry Lane. 32 years old, right back, right wing back. Blech. Let's remove that position from his player card, please. He's from Paraguay, 95 overall, so he's the first overall of the ultimate rarity. Quite different to limited rarity. 95 pace, 70 shooting, 99 passing, 87 dribbling, 95 defending, and 97 physical, being bought by Sid, sold by Harry Lane. I always ask the age-old question, is this good value, Trust? And the easy answer for someone to say is, if someone believes it's good value, it is good value. I'm quickly checking what his position is at the old right wing back, because if it's similar to 95, I imagine that could be one of the reasons for purchasing the player. He's a 94 at right wing back, so could it be the option Sid can play a 5 at the back? And also with a lot of deals recently involving Sid and others, there's probably like 3 other players involved in this deal I've got no awareness of, so it looks a bit silly from here.
I was gonna say, what was his age again? And was he an old mint?
He was 32. He is an old mint. So he's at 8591 to be his mint exactly. He was minted as a 22-year-old. He's now 32, and he's not thrown up the retirement symbol yet.
And it was how much did they buy him for?
700 United States dollars.
Yeah, I mean that's right in the range where I feel like I personally would have him valued at. It's funny enough because like a 94 30-year-old, I'm saying 30 because he's 2 years younger than my spreadsheet, was a 581, and a 95 is a 983, and so it's like right in that 700 whatever middle. But yeah, especially if you have utility for him and right back being a position that's needed on the higher end. I think it was a good buy, especially if there's no retirement symbol yet.
There we go. Sid's been quite often on the splash of the week this week. I think the first one of sort of like the new year was Sid. Sid's been splashing. There's been quite a few ultimate splashes recently as well. Right, let's come into some community questions quickly before we move into the club delegation and other MFL talk piece. In no particular order, I think maybe we should have addressed this one in the Alexis chat. The engine chat. Alexis, the creator of the wonderful MFL assist, says, any tips to improve your squad's defense with this new engine? Ask Yorkshire Tier and XP chaps. They probably know much more than we do, and I think maybe from how we summarized it earlier, we are not the people to disclosing this advice. But any tips to improve your squad's defense with this new engine? Just fiddle around with the settings and find something that maybe fits and run with it until it doesn't fit. But I actually haven't got any advice. Do you, Trust?
Not that you would like. I'd say 5 at the back.
Oh, yeah.
Extra defense to your club. But based off what you already have set up at this point, no, I don't really have any advice.
Yeah, I was trying to think earlier, could you have, I mean, you could just go less defensive and less freedom and all that. And there's always so many variables involved. But I think it's just making the most out of your offensive and in possession tactics to just make their defense as poo as possible and hope that their defense is more pooey than your defense and basically hope to win. It's one of those, as long as you score, it's who can score the most goals, not who can concede the fewest. Well, I guess they're both the same thing when you think about it, but it depends
Sure.
which way you look at it. Fab Miz says, is there a hidden morale or form? The short answer is no, but it definitely feels like it sometimes. Momentum seems like a thing at MFL where you can have a consecutive spell of good results, and then suddenly you have one bad one, albeit like a shock result against a weaker team, and suddenly, even though everything's kept the same, or you maybe tweaked it to what you think's your benefit, results still don't go your way until that turns again. With or without putting your tinfoil hat on, Trust, do you think there's a hidden morale or form involved?
I would agree with the tinfoil hat. Sure feels that way at times. Yeah, no comment, I guess. I really don't.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's not, but it sure seems that way. I don't know if that's to do with energy levels when you're playing against just happens to be certain ways, but
just a lot of coincidence, maybe. Just a lot of coincidences, maybe the reason why. Fab
or it's like whenever you're lower on the table, people start rotating against you, and so you start playing weaker opponents. And then you get higher to the table, people start playing their better teams against you.
Yeah,
and that's when things get worse. I don't know.
Yeah, usually if you just think about it and put a bit of common sense behind it, it's like, yeah, you just people rotate against you, or after mid-season people are practicing with the engine and getting better and those sort of things, or energy, and lots of variables get involved to form the variance of the engines and the beautiful V word that we love to say. Fab Miss also asked, would you think it's possible to give keepers specific attributes? I would love to see keepers with specific attributes because they're the one player card that sort of is just a bit meh. I want to see more to them, whether it's long kicking, long throw, sweeper. Albeit, would you want a sweeper keeper in this engine with how the goalkeepers behave? Probably not. You just see more of these moments of a goalkeeper rushing out, passing it to a striker, and then the striker goes and scores. But I'm all for seeing sort of whether it be a goalkeeper, whether it be more fleshed out stats across an outfield player's card. I'd like to see more specific attributes. Is that something you'd like to see as well, Trust?
Not at all.
Fair enough.
I think it's too late. I think it would have been a great idea from the get-go, but I don't know how you add qualities to players that are already in people's inventories. I don't know if you could transition at some point to adding attributes to goalies. I just feel like you're playing with people's stuff too much. That's how I feel the same way about people that are trying to say, hey, can we get some sort of development so we can change the position of this player to something else? I just feel like it changes what's already in place too much. But maybe that's just my opinion.
No, I do agree with those points, and that's often, particularly with the formation one, position one. I'm always like, well, if you can just change someone's position, to give up XP or to give up something or other or development, it kind of ruins the fact that you scout players and you buy players who fit positions, and it just makes that original position potentially irrelevant. And that's the whole point of building teams. You're building teams to be in the strongest they are. And I also agree that how would they roll this out? How do you just suddenly roll it out to all of the players that currently exist? Let's have a look. What we've got here? Risu says, in real life, playing test matches as preparation and having real competition matches for leagues and cups are two totally different things. So pre-season compared to the real season IRL is two different things. Why do you think so many MFL managers think that if you just test enough games, it will be the same outcomes in competition matches? I guess we could sum it up is why do people just play friendlies? Why do people do that, Trust? Why play friendlies?
It's like wasting time. No, just kidding. I think
Palmer would agree.
I I both hear what he's saying because yeah, two teams that are in a training match aren't gonna play the same way. But there isn't a training match engine whenever an
Yeah.
engine's finalized.
Or is there?
And so
I don't
there's reasonable expectation that there should be some consistency. However, the inconsistent part is the fact that everyone has their team built different ways, different formations, different players that have different individual instructions. And so I do think it is very difficult to count on friendlies whenever you're just saying the fact that you're playing against so many different variables in your actual league matches.
Yeah, I agree that in real life, when you're having your pre-season, your warm-up matches for the season, etc., those sort of training games, players aren't fully fit. They're not trying their hardest. It's just about regaining fitness for the full season. You can't just do a friendly match MFL and go, boys, just only put like 70% effort in for this game, please. Just I don't want you to like try too hard to injure yourself, but you can't. It's either all or nothing, and all is playing the game and nothing is doing no friendlies. So that's one of the rare cases where I think IRL as a reasoning for particular things happening or not happening MFL can be great, but also it cannot be great because there has to be the separation from IRL and MFL for it to be the metaverse and not be everything. Oh, because it happens in IRL, it has to happen in MFL. No, we can have some separation and some uniqueness that disconnects us from that. And I think, that's one of those cases. What else have we got here? United Mitch, I believe, on Twitter says, do you think a capped league below Flint would be a good idea? Would provide utility to those lower end commons? Would people pay for another club just to use these commons, or could they implement a sort of free-to-play system similar to trial clubs? It would increase engagement too. And I would like to add a question before that to you, Trust. We discussed this with Taggart last week, and we spoke about some of the community's opinions this season, the last couple of seasons, that they can't get some of their lower-rated players on clubs. I know it's a bit different for you and the amount of clubs you have. You can put those low-rated players. But do you think those low-rated commons should always have a club to play at? Do you think some players do just not have any game time throughout their career?
Yeah. I think there's definitely players / people out there in the world that wish they could play professional soccer that might be a 42 rated player, but can't
Yeah.
because there's no one that's going to want to sign them. And that could be the same thing here. But I do think from a dev team perspective and MFL team in general, I think they would like to have utility for the vast majority of players. And I think they have that already in place. It's called the rest of Flint. People just aren't buying the clubs. And so I don't know. I think that there is a place for them in the sense that the answer is, I mean, every time someone posts in Discord, hey, I can't get rid of my common players, no one's going to sign them. I just type in buy a club, or like it's a fairly simple solution if you have the funds to do so.
Yeah,
of course. But yeah, I don't know. I really do think that I think players should have utility. I don't like the idea of a league below Flint yet. Maybe one day, even and the cap, I'm not against. But how's that going to look? Is it going to promote into this pyramid? Hopefully, probably not. Is it purely just training grounds? And if so, how does that work for training? I don't know. I'm not initially in favor of it, but I could see its utility.
Yeah, I'm not against players not having. Well, they will always have utility, but I'm not against there being some of the low end commons not having any place on, like, as a player, a key player and an important player, starting player on a team. If you want a player to get some training, like 50% base XP, just chuck them on the end of one of your other teams you've got higher up the pyramid, and you get something. And to be fair, if they're a grower and not a non-shower, then even with a little bit of XP, they're still going to gain something, and maybe you can put them in somewhere else. But a capped league could be interesting below Flint. It does beg the question: how would it work? Would it, like you said, would it stay separate? I've always naturally been against caps because I feel like you can't force someone to play a particular way. but you can just incentivize them not to play that in a particular way, which is basically the penalties on matches, the pains on training, the penalties on training. They're not the paintings on penalties, the penalties on training. But I think if it's like something separate to it, maybe you could introduce a cap there.
Yeah, the one thing I'll give it some credit for is the fact that it is very difficult even to play guys and progress them. I have, admittedly, this is probably a bad idea compared to most people. I have a club. I just pulled up one of my Flint clubs, and they average probably a 43 overall. And it is like the consistent detriment of match ratings to their development is a bummer because there isn't really a way around that if there isn't a league designed to only play those players in. And so I can see some merit to that for that reason. But I've historically, just like you've been kind of against caps in general because, let the penalties kind of speak for themselves. But whenever you're on the negative side of the penalty and you can't do anything about it, you just want to play the guys like that. That's a bit of a bummer.
Yeah. People will always hate to see their agency up. They'll always hate to see players in their agency not getting game time because that's just potential ruin, not potential ruin, but like potential progression being sacrificed there. And I know the old Transformer wiki motto, no sacrifice, no victory. But maybe in this case, you don't want to sacrifice progression. One more. I got two more. One's from Owen, and then one's from myself because I want to know your opinion on something I did on the first match day. Owen says, "What division do you prefer to play in? How do you see your future agency structure being in terms of being spread out through the whole pyramid or concentrated on the low or high end?" Because I know when you spoke with Laird, you said you are in about 1/3 of the Spark League. I'm not sure how that's changed now. But what division do you prefer playing in, and how do you see the pyramidal structure of your agency in the future?
Yeah, gonna probably talk out of both ends of my mouth here, but I like being able to try to get my clubs up. I say try because I have clubs in iron that I'm trying to get to bronze. I want to see some of my, especially Philadelphia and the Norwich license, just for your sake. I'd love to see them progress up the pyramid and compete on that level. But at the other end of the spectrum, for player development, if it's some old heads I don't really care about, I want them to play in as high of a league as they're allowed to play in. If they're going to lose, and if they're going to get last in Spark, might as well get last in Ice.
Yeah,
that's whenever I'm seeing a team, a club that's in Ice that's cheaper than clubs that are in Flint. I'm like, why are you not just buying the Ice club? But yeah, I guess as a whole, I see my agency staying relatively similar to where it's at now. Probably the only exception being is a lot of my Spark clubs eventually becoming Flint clubs, just for the player development angle. I had posted a screen record in Discord. I don't know if you saw this, Jimbo, but whenever it was like the whole message, you're lucky you're still staying up or something like that, whatever that message is that you should relegate, but you're staying up. I got like 50 of those in my inbox. It was just scrolling. And I think I posted something like relegation's a myth or something like that. But yeah, in the meantime, it's really going to be a lot of 90% of my clubs are probably going to be in Spark and Flint. And you may have some that progress further up. Yeah. But that's kind of what my agency is going to be.
Yeah. We've got 3 other questions, which we will ask in the club delegation bit because they kind of relate to that. But I'm maybe outing myself here and potentially opening myself up for criticism. And a bit of, no, I would say a bit of abuse. No, we're not saying that. And I think it's because I probably, I said this on the stream. I want to ask you a question, Trust, and the title is Am I an Arsehole? Right. Basically, I had all my Wyverns set out, and I had my Wentz and Worm team set out. Am I an arsehole for transferring all of my substitute and rotation players to my second team for the first couple of match days and then just sending them back before the transfer window in the opening game of the season? Because I asked stream this and they thought I was very naughty. But I had a few people say I had thought about this, but I'd never thought I'd publicly, they'd never actually gone through with it. But because I've basically opened up and gone, guys, am I an asshole here? Because it's clearly something that's you could do, and there's nothing stopping you. And I'm surprised in the how many seasons we had? What do we have? 9 alpha seasons or 8 alpha seasons, a breakaway, and just say 20 seasons. I'm surprised I've never seen anything about this, and people have either discussed about it. Just to give context on the overrules, I dropped down an 84, an 83, and an 82 into Stone to play in the Stone game, and then chucked them back for progression in the morning. But then I left it at that. I did it for one match day, actually. I didn't do it for one. I did it for one match day. I could have been a real big asshole and done it again for match day 2, but I didn't. Am I an a-hole for doing that?
No, I don't think so. I think you're just going to have a Jimbo rule coming up down the pike. I don't know how they would.
I'm secretly hoping for it.
But first, I think it'd be incredibly hypocritical of me to say that was something that was wrong whenever I had a rule made after myself, even though I try to go about it the right way whenever I was doing it. No, I just think you found a loophole if you have the ability to do that. I mean, you're getting those guys playing time. You want them to get playing time. You're operating in your best interest. I think that's what any owner should be doing.
And I think there's opening couple of games. I want to give that Stone team the best possible chance in the opening games when they're going to be coming against teams who are on 100% fitness, 98. If I can try and give them the best chance to maybe get a 2, not 3 wins, 2. Obviously the impact there is, from my side, is that I'm potentially getting less XP from those, less potential XP for those players, but at the same time, they will be gaining an extra match they're playing in a season, because I knew I wouldn't be playing them for at least 3 games of the season. So if I can give them 1 early, they're still going to have enough time to rest for the 3rd game or 4th game I need them. So there is that. But I do wonder, and one thing I did find out is, there's that 6-hour cooldown. So I played them at like 8:30 local time, my time. I managed to transfer them back to the Wyverns within like 3 hours. I'm not sure it's because of my own club, but there was no 6-hour cooldown for me. Unless it's once the match day finishes, then that becomes irrelevant. But I was a bit skeptical. I was a bit, hang on, there was no cooldown here, which I thought was a bit weird. But I just wanted to know, am I the arsehole for doing that? But I feel like some people have surely done it before.
I think your job as a manager of your agency is to do in your best interest of your clubs, and then let the teams close loopholes as needed. I would be curious if they let you re-sign them because of the fact that they were once signed to that club. Because I've had this thing before where I'll accidentally cancel a contract that I wanted to actually have that player on there for during the 6-hour cooldown. Then I can send them right back right away to the same club that I just canceled them from. I don't know if that was seasons ago, but I don't know if because they once came from the Wyverns that they're allowed to go back on even within the 6-hour window, which would be something that they should close.
Because I knew that it was less than 6 hours, because I was telling myself I have to wake up early before training so I don't get a training penalty and put them back onto the Wyverns where they're going to get optimal training conditions, or I just stay up like 2 hours late past my bedtime and just do it when 6 hours done. But it was done by like 11:30, and I've put them on and I've cancelled the contract between I cancelled the contract at 11 p.m. and they were on the team within the next 5 minutes. So I just wanted to know if I was a bit of an a-hole for it, but it seems not. But it seems cheeky. It seems cheeky and a bit devilish. But then again, I don't know what they could do about it, because there's nothing. Who's to say that you buy my player and then have to cancel a contract and it goes to your team for the rest of the season? It's no different to that.
Yeah. But the answer is just, all right, everyone else do it too. Like they're like,
yeah. It was funny because I literally put them on there like 10 minutes before the game started as well.
Poor guy probably scouted you guys.
You just looked at the activity tab for the league, and you just see like 84, 83, 83 ramping into Stone. I'm so sorry, brother. And then you just see them go straight back afterwards. Right, but anyway,
yeah.
I thought it was quite fun. Even though, chat did think I was a bit maybe in the wrong, maybe a bit cheeky.
So, do we know who that manager was you played against? Because if it was Blades, then it was totally okay.
If it was Blades, it was totally okay. I can find who was it I played against. It was a guy called Salvo TP, and actually only was this the team? Yeah, it was. And they only actually won 2-1. But you know the three players that had on the team, they averaged a 7.6 rating between them, so they clearly had a little bit of a pretty big influence in the game. But anyway, let's come to Club Delegation then. So we suspect it will get released. Well, we knew from Matt that it wasn't going to get released for season 11. We know that it's been in the development stage within MFL team for we could say a number of years, right? I remember saying this in like when Calvin and I did our predictions for 2025, we were like, "Oh, will Club Delegation come in?" I remember listening to that video preparation for the new year one this time, and I was like, "This is so weird. We're talking about it." And Yaks did come out a couple of weeks ago, maybe even just before Christmas, and say like, it's always been close to being released, and then other priorities have kicked in, and it just falls to the back burner because it's not a priority feature. But it seems like now it is very close. I wonder if, because they've dropped trial clubs, it's become a bit more of a priority, because you've seen a few, and I don't know how much you've been in Discord recently, Trust, but there's been a couple members this week who have joined MFL and gone, "Oh, are trial clubs still a thing?" And everyone's like, "No, they're not." But they're still seeing like adverts or still seeing some bits around MFL stating that trial clubs are a thing. So there's a bit of a miscommunication there. And I think maybe MFL on their side should, if they have adverts out or whatever it is that people are finding there, remove the content about that, because it is a bit misleading. And, you know, having a free trial club brings them away into the game without any investment in capital. And the reason I want to say that is because Club Delegation is potentially a route for those. I will go first here and say that I've got some friends who I knew wouldn't want to put up 50, 60 quid into the game just to try it and then not like it. But if asked to say, "Oh, give it like a couple of weeks, boys, a couple of months, I can, I can give you a club for a season. You can try, and if you don't like it, you don't like it. It's no harm." We'll cut to the chase. Bit about onboarding. Do we think that benefits MFL with Club Delegation coming in, the whole onboarding piece, giving people an opportunity to?
No doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, I've mentioned this a couple of times now. Whenever I keep talking about Club Delegation at different times of, I don't know, the last couple of seasons. I got a few friends that for sure would, I think, give it a shot if I said, "Hey, I'll send this club over to you. Have fun with it, and then you can either keep on managing this club or have your own." Because I think they would love it. It's just a matter of accessibility and seeing the value, right? Because $50, $60 isn't an insignificant amount of money, especially if clubs do what I expect they're going to do and continue to rise in price. I don't know. I think it's only going to help increase the game.
Yeah, but I do wonder if, because of the trial clubs being axed, that if Club Delegation has become more of a priority for them, because it's not a like for like. No way is it a like for like, but it's closer to another onboarding mechanism, which one of the best things at MFL is like word of mouth. It's influencers showcasing the game, and if you can now basically gift a club to someone that you know well, or anyone you may trust or so on, then that's a great way for them to sort of get to know the game. And obviously as well, you can give them the club with limited capabilities. They don't have to worry about contracting players in. They don't have to worry about doing the branding or managing the offers or managing the tactics. You can almost sort of like ease them into it, because those things for a first time user can be quite intimidating. How do you like I say, not get scammed on contracts, but like, "Oh, I've got a player who I now has a minimum clause of 25 games at 17.5%," and you're like, "Oh, well, you can't do that," or you can, but you're going to kill the player and your performances. "Oh, the player won't cancel the contract." Well, no shit.
Yeah, the player signed to a
Yeah,
20-game contract, but he's retiring this season.
yeah. More broadly speaking, how do you think that club delegation can sort of like impact MFL, change MFL, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think it's just going to allow more people to find what they're passionate about and pursue that. I mean, you're
Yeah,
going to have people that aren't necessarily passionate about growing their own agency, but they're excited and passionate about getting to play the game.
yeah,
And so, like, players like myself that love player development, that like ownership, but really don't necessarily maybe enjoy diving deep into tactics and running multiple friendlies and scouting opponents, at least not as much as I enjoy the other parts of the game. It really just allows people to find their niche and run with it,
yeah,
which I think is always a good thing. Um, and so, yeah, I think that's a big benefit, and especially to like those that do want to manage multiple clubs that financially can't. Um, it's an opportunity for them to be more plugged into the game and talk about it with more people, and that's only ever good for MFL.
yeah. And I think even, if we come away from the sort of the person benefiting from managing the club that's being delegated and the new users or onboarding and that sort of thing, there is, I guess, a benefit to a big benefit to those who have lots of clubs like yourself. If you have so many clubs, an opportunity cost having so many clubs is the time spent on each one. You know, would you say that some of your clubs in the lower divisions, the ones that you don't care about, could you say they're sort of, you know, poorly tacticized, or you don't spend enough time on them, but you can then give it to someone who will want to prove themselves, and maybe you'll delegate your teams out to be managed better. Not saying you're not managing them poorly, but you can have someone who's solely spending one person's time on one club, rather than your your time and brain being delegated across 122 clubs, right?
Yeah, yeah. This season, I'm doing a lot of 11 and 11 switches, so I can just go through all my teams a lot less and do rotations, or
Yeah,
17 man. So it's just 3 rotations that are going through, and they're the same formation a lot of times. For the 11 and 11, they're always the same rotation, and that way, if someone gets a red card, I don't care. Next guy just fills in off the bench. I
yeah,
don't have to worry about going and actually changing it. It's just finding lazy ways to manage, right? To your point of, yeah, if I have people that can manage those clubs, I've said this before. I think a hands-on manager is going to return maybe a spot or two extra at least in the standings on
yeah,
average, if it's a middling team for the league. And so if I can give them that difference, I'm not losing MFL earned. It's just looking different. I'm saving time at the same time.
yeah. And I even wonder, so maybe very sort of niche benefits here, or niche outcomes, is that we could see particular managers or users become sort of like, you know uh have specialisms in when it comes to managing clubs. You could be having a club trust, or even myself, god forbid, the Wyverns, a relegation zone, a bronze, which has happened on more than one occasion, and I'll be like, oh right, I don't think I can back myself the second half of the season. Who's like a Sean Dyche, or who's a Sam Allardyce, who's going to get me out of the relegation zone? You could delegate them second half of season, that sort of thing. Or who do I back to get me promoted? Who's really good in the
Same thing,
cup?
yeah, chasing a trophy. Yeah.
Yeah, like who, managers will get a chance to prove themselves and maybe get a bit of reputation, to a bit like with some managers now who are very good tacticians, and those who are very good with development, and so on and so forth. Would you want to delegate those clubs to them? 100%. Let's come to a question from the community. Hamed says, "Where does the one club trust the process has already delegated have to finish for the current manager to avoid getting fired?" Obviously, for a bit of context, there, the one of the clubs that you own is being, indirectly delegated to James. Where does he have to finish to not be fired?
No, no comment. No.
Not for the media.
The honest thought is, I love the fact that he loves Edinburgh, because at the end of the day, I feel like that man's gonna be busy. I think he's gonna have a lot of clubs that people want to delegate to him because of his skill set.
Mm,
Um, and so I feel very fortunate to have him wanting to manage this club. Um, that being said, they are 1-0-3 so far this season, so it has not been a great start. But he's been vocal, saying he's like, I'm trying to figure out this engine. It's been challenging for him.
mm.
But yeah, no, I'm not. There's no concern there. You can rest easy, James. There's no level of You could demote down to Flint, and you'd still be welcome to manage that club next season.
He says also, when will the TTP merch expand from just t-shirts?
He had shot me a picture. He was at the gym, and someone was wearing "Trust the Process" on the back of their shirt in Australia, and I was like, I told him I had to outsource my marketing elsewhere, so I wouldn't get like whatever it's called, subpoenaed or trademarked, whatever, a cease and assist for kind of using "Trust the Process" from the Sixers. But
there we go.
Yeah, and so we're next thing is hats. We have to make it to platinum or diamond first before we feel like we can use that expenditure.
Well, maybe that's a benefit of having a club delegated from Trust the Process, is that you get some merch off the back of it. If you perform well, that's the incentive there. Another question comes in from Tag. I said, what is the highest number you've ever counted to at one time? 1 to whatever. And will this guest, you, eventually have more or fewer clubs than that number?
Yeah, great question. The hardest part of that question is knowing what's the highest number I counted to. I just this past week did like 150 air squats at the gym for part of a workout. So I'm just going to use that number. I'm sure maybe I've counted higher, but I can't remember a time. I don't know why you'd ever count higher. That feels like a good push number. It feels like a good target. Like, I don't know if it'd be higher or lower than 150, but that's a nice round number. But there's no immediate plans to buy more clubs. Just seeing where.
Oh yeah. Where have we heard this one before?
There's never been, but there's also never been a plan to buy more clubs. It just kind of happens. So we'll see. This may go into the next question, so I don't know if you wanted to ask.
Yeah, I was going to say, before. You're just saying that because the missus is standing right next to you, and you have to say you're not buying more clubs. Blink twice if she's right next to you, telling you to say these things. No, that does lead quite nice into Nyrus or Chris Lay's question, saying, with Trust taking out the club floor in previous seasons, with the $40-$45 clubs partially to protect his investment value, was he tempted to cash a few of those in, and take the profits this season as the floor moves towards $55 to $60? Or more generally, what does an increase in value of clubs change for his process?
Yeah. So I was very content where I was in my 76 range whenever I had clubs, but then whenever floor just dropped out, just saw the value and trusted that the market was going to come back for clubs. And I still think there's room to come back even further. Whenever the options are either buy a club for 80 from MFL's website, you get a pack with it, or buy a club off the marketplace. If that pack's worth $15, people can do the math and say I'm better off buying a club for $65. Or they can go down the route and get that $80 club and pack option. And so I feel like the floor realistically is going to be around 60, 65 eventually. And so I would not sell now, but I also feel like it's a good price. And so that's why I currently don't plan on buying more. Unless there's kind of a mid-season opportunity where it happens. People leave the game and their club's at 0% rev share and they post it at floor price.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, I get a floor club with free MFL attached to it. I think I netted a Stone Club last season that ended up costing me a net after MFL income of like $35.
Wow.
And so that's just where I can't say I'm not going to buy anymore. It's just not planning on it.
Are you surprised that the floor price for clubs is an ice club?
It was a weird time during the off season because people wanted empty clubs, and I said this was going to happen. I forget if it was on Laird's stream or if it was just a comment. Was that people always post towards the end of the transfer window, I want an empty club because I want to dump my players on there.
Yeah.
I don't know if the ice club was an empty one or not, or if people just, I don't know. I bottom line is yes. I don't understand ever why the floor is not a Flint or a Spark.
Yeah.
Unless it's something that already has high rev share or something that people don't want to be using.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. But
yeah, I think I asked it on the stream as well, and folks were like saying, yeah, people want to have a Spark or a Flint club, and I guess also as well, it's if they want to fill a club in Flint with low overalls for XP reasons, you can't do that in ice because the minimum overalls. So you can't set up that club like that. So more Flint clubs.
This ice club that's been on the market, this 55 one you're referring to, has been here for a long time. It's because they're taking up 61.5% of the rev share, and then the plus 22, and it's a full roster, and so you can even add your own guys to it. And so I'd never have interest in buying one of those clubs, especially whenever you can still add players. Now the transfer window's over, maybe someone will bite, but
yeah. I was, it's one of those where we talk about the whole formal momentum piece. We're like, maybe there is, but we know there's not. But maybe it seems a bit odd. But then actually, you look into the reasons. Well, why is an ice club that value? Why is it the lowest one? And we highlight the reasons we've just stated, and you go, well, as much as it doesn't make sense, it kind of does make sense. And you sort of like, well, there we go.
There was a cheap silver club the other day that someone didn't even register for the season, and it's just there, and it's just in a cup. And he missed. I think they missed either late registration or maybe it is still going on. Either way, I was like, that makes sense. Why it's listed so low.
Yeah. We'll come back to Club Delegation then. And before I ask you about how you as an agency will go about Club Delegation, because realistically, you're probably someone who's going to utilize that mechanic because of the amount of clubs you have. And I think people will potentially look to you as someone who will use that functionality. A concern that Laird brought up was, do we just see like particular agencies sort of whale and monopolize clubs and then hoard them all up and then just delegate them out? Is that something you could envision happening? And two, if it was to ever happen, would that be a concern for the game, or is that just a product of a free market sort of thing?
I think it's a product of the free market. I don't see anything necessarily wrong with it. Again, it goes back to people doing what they want to do, what they find excitement about. And so if more people buying up more clubs leads to more players that get to play the game, then MFL probably doesn't care too much where their income comes from. Yeah. It's people buying clubs no matter what. There's transactions happening. So yeah, I really don't see a problem with it, especially if the plan is not to just stop the pyramid here, right? Like though this is the initial period, these 10 divisions, I feel like that's been discussed as far as like, maybe not an MFL team, I think they have, but like we're good with these 10. We're not planning on adding another level, just branching out elsewhere, whether it be regional pyramids or what, which is a whole other conversation that's exciting. But no, I mean, part of the reason why I'm interested in buying so many clubs is because I do feel like this is the OG pyramid. I feel like this game is going to be going places for a long time. And so I want to invest in the most permanent asset that this game has.
Mm-hmm. So I've always wanted to ask you this, and I know that I asked you this the first time you came on the pod, which, we can say was years ago. When you first joined MFL, and I imagine you've been asked this so many times, probably by myself in previous episodes, did you ever envision having this many clubs or being this committed and invested within the game? Is this something you in other hobbies you get, you dip your toes and then you go all in? Is that a byproduct of your personality?
I have an addictive personality for sure. Yeah. And so that there's definitely part of that came through in my level of involvement in this game. But definitely can't say it was the thought process from the beginning. I was just happy to find something that was like it. I always loved the Ultimate Team sort of pieces of FIFA or Madden, and other kind of random computer games since then. I never found the other soccer-based or football-based games. That was natural. My apologies.
Yeah. You corrected yourself. You corrected yourself. That was the main thing.
It's your pod. I'm going to try to obey by your rules.
No, I appreciate that.
I can use the S word every time with Laird. I'm sure that's fine. I can't even remember the name of the other company that this kind of competes with, nor do we need to talk about it. I just never came across those options. I never even heard of So Rare. And so it's just one of those things where I was happy to find it, and I just love the game so much. And I do feel like it's almost like not financial advice. I feel like it's like a savings account, like knowing that I can buy this $45, $50 club and feel like it's going to retain value because I believe in the game so much. It doesn't feel risky, frankly. And so,
my word, I'm so glad you said not financial advice during all this, because the things you're coming out with it feels like a savings account and there's no risk associated whatsoever.
Feels like
this is one of those where clip it up and it's like, 2 years later, and it's like, well, I'm now in,
There's an MFL documentary on Netflix how the whole thing fell apart.
yeah, like, CoffeeZilla or whatever, that guy on YouTube who does like the investigations and
yeah,
the downfall of, God forbid that ever happens, but yeah, carry on.
But yes, circling back to the fact, yes, do not put more money into this game than you're willing to lose. But I do just really enjoy this game, and I feel like it's something I want to invest in long term. And so, yeah, just has very much not turned out the way I was expecting. I remember thinking when I read 12 clubs, I was like, man, this feels like a lot. And yeah, I mean, setting up all my clubs this past off season, my goodness, it took a lot. I signed, what was it? I've deleted all auto renews, and so this offseason I signed 2,496 players to my own clubs.
Oh my word!
And redid the rotations for all of them. And so, yeah, I don't value my time well enough, I think, whenever I'm analyzing the costs of these things. But the hope is there. Like, I didn't sign players that are retiring to my own clubs within the next 3 seasons, and so they're designed to have those rotations now for the next 3 seasons on auto renew. So a lot went into the last few weeks, but now I feel like I'm coasting now for 2 to 3 months.
Yeah. Interesting. One thing I wanted to talk about, one final thing actually, before we get into how you utilize Club Delegation, we'll eventually get there. Something in my head I've always thought about. Well, I don't know if MFL to be more eyes on, hands on with. I don't want to say like the fair play rule or like the piece around you loan a club to me and we're in the same league somehow because you've bought the club and it's delegated to me, or will it be a case of if you buy a club in the off season that's going to be in the same league as one you already own, but you delegate it, does that still continue to be in the same league or not, even though it's technically being managed by me but owned by you still? Because I sort of wanted to get around the point I'm trying to get here is, will there be more eyes on sort of like, let's just call it match fixing accusations maybe, or collusion fears, or competitive credibility between match? Do you think that's not really concerned right now, but do you think those concerns increase with club delegation? And if you manage a club to your friend and you play against each other, do you sort of, a couple of bucks under the table and give me a good result, that sort of thing? Is that a concern, or am I just being a bit too pessimistic?
There's got to be some concern on some level, especially frankly with all the off the table deals that are already happening on some level with players and exchange of cash outside of MFL. And frankly, I'm surprised they haven't done more about that. But that's not. I don't know what you could do or what you would do. But all to say, like, there was a level of like, all right, I just gave the James team that I just sent his way. I was like, watch us get placed in the same league, and they see two trust process teams in the same league.
Yeah.
I just looked it up. We're in the same cup, not the same cup division. So hopefully we just never play each other. But nonetheless, yeah, I think it is a concern. I think they would have to have some way of automating. Hey, you can't have a club that you're managing or that that you own in the same league. And maybe what you were talking about, hey, maybe I can delegate this club for the end of season to get out of relegation zone. It's possible you only can delegate a club or receive that during transfer windows, or maybe even just the first transfer window, or even before leagues come out, because they want to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they're getting a larger team. That's helpful. Keep an eye on that stuff. But in general, I think it becomes more of an issue at the top end as far as something they'd want to keep track of, whether that be like silver and up or something, or bronze and up, just because that's whenever there's more winnings on the line. Like, there's no one that's going to offer me $2 to win a game in Spark. Like, that's just not going to be a thing.
Yeah.
But someone could offer significantly more.
Yeah.
The higher up the pyramid. Not something I ever kind of gave full thought to.
Yeah, true. I don't think the concerns increase. maybe speculatively, I can't pronounce the word properly I'm trying to pronounce, they do, but I think, when you sign up for the leagues and that, you basically agree that you're not going to do X, Y, Z. I do actually wonder, in the MFL team, if you're listening, I know you're listening, if you've got this far, can you please, maybe you're not allowed to disclose it, or maybe in a DM you can to me, please. And I can just sort of say, like, sources have told me on the next pod sort of thing. Have there been any scenarios where you've sort of, you've got the judge's hammer and you've got guilty and you've punished some individuals or clubs for match fixing or collusion? Because, the consequences do say, like, deduction of points, that sort of thing, not being, being suspended from leagues in the future. I wonder if anything like that has happened in the past. I would like to know. It'd be quite interesting, out the people. Right, Trust. Let's come to you. But one final thing before we do, the hashtag of this week is hashtag WenDelegation. Just to maybe, put a bit more pressure into MFL team, get everyone saying hashtag WenDelegation. Hashtag WenDelegation. Make sure, especially post in the MFL Discord.
I'm gonna do it right now. No, just kidding.
Yeah, right now. Second it hits 6:30 my time or whatever, 1:30 your time. Bang, WenDelegation. Get it fired in there nice and early. We joked last week about the UI work intensifying, and Yak did actually DM me and go, "It is intensifying, Jimbo. It's intensifying quite a bit." His exact phrase was, let me find it. And his exact phrase was, "It's very intense at the moment, Jimbo." And I go, maybe I'm outing DMs here. There's nothing personal or anything wrong in it. I go, on a scale of 1 to 10, Yaks, how intense are we talking? He goes, a 9. It is intense. Maybe
so there's room for improvement.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But maybe we see that intensity carry over to the hashtag WenDelegation. But no, Trust, finally, how does Club Delegation look for you and your agency? Because when you spoke with Laird, you mentioned you want to fill the team with players, give it to the manager, the individual, give the club with armory, weapons, give it kitted out, ready to go into the season. Is that still going to be the case? And second of all, you said in MFL with Laird stream, you stream with Laird, that you would you might be considering doing Google Forms for people to come and submit themselves. Is that something which is also going to happen, or is that sort of, you're laughing about it now, maybe it's not going to continue, but yeah, how does Club Delegation look for you when it comes, not if, when it comes?
One thing that I'm hoping for that has yet to be kind of seen in that snapshots that we got, because it looks like you're inviting managers to run your club. I don't know if there's gonna be a way for a manager to request to run your, like, for it to be reciprocal.
Yeah.
Because I don't know who to reach out to, and my hope is that people reach out to me. But at the same time, the other thing I'm hoping that they add that we just don't see is incentives, like reach this certain level of in the standings and get extra X% of rev share extra. Don't know if that's possible or if it's too much in general. I do want to say I think this is looking great. I'm looking at it again, and there's valid reasons why it's taken some time for delegation to come out. Is because it looks intricate, which I do love. But I think there's always gonna be things that I'm looking for that might not be there. Like those couple of things that I mentioned. I don't know if there's gonna be options or not. Google Forms, frankly, is just one of the easiest ways I think of as far as taking information in. If there's not a way in the game to take that information, that desire from people in. Yeah, I think it also comes down to is there genuine interest in managing a club for, like, the 10% rev share that's exampled in the picture. Like that seems like a good number. I don't know if people are going to be open for more than that.
Yeah. And I guess you could scale that depending on how much permission you give to that that individually. If you're giving a club with nothing, you could maybe give them more revenue share because they've got to put in the effort to bringing in players and things like that. But if you're giving them a club with all the players and all the the tactics, everything, could you have 10%, 5%? I guess that gives that sort of leeway.
And the same thing with the managing contracts. I'm wondering if you can say, yeah, you can manage contracts, but here's your allowance. You can use X% of rev share on top of what you're being given for yourself to give away. It can just be so intricate. It can be so detailed, these roles in general. I'm curious again with that drop down, what else there could be. And so it's hard in general, even still, after seeing this, kind of to explain how I'm going to go about it. But we kind of talked pre-stream. I don't know for sure if I'm going to exercise and use this too much in the first couple of seasons. Some of it might be just waiting to see how things figure itself out.
Yeah.
And some of it's too also the fact, like I said, this offseason I kind of built for the next 3 seasons for me to control it. But if there's people like Hamez out there that are like, hey, I really love this location, I want to manage it, you don't need to give me anything, I just want to run it. I'm like, there's no reason why not to turn that over to someone that I know is going to take care of it and at least do what they can to take care of it. To be fair, it's also not the strongest team. I don't know how NFL stats, how that comes up. But yeah, the other part of it too is trying to figure out what people are going to be looking for as far as strength of team. Like, are they going to be okay with me delegating a team to them that's going to compete to try to stay out of relegation? Or they're going to want something that can compete at the top? Like, is that going to be a challenge enough to avoid being at the bottom?
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll do like hey, if you're managing one of the lower end teams, maybe you get more of a rev share to make up for the difference.
Yeah.
Or that's why, like, the idea of incentives being there. But
do you think there should be any mechanic in there, or, well, quick yes or no one actually? Do you think there'll be the option to call that back mid-season if performances aren't going well?
I think so. I think to the extent where it says, where is it? Permissions can be changed at any time by the club owner. If there's if the option is to say, hey, they can manage competitions and tactics, if you rescind that, I guess I'm assuming that means then I would be managing it then from that point on.
Yeah.
My also thought though would be the fact that they then still maintain the 10%. Like, I don't think I can just take, like, oh, thanks for the season managing, canceling, and now I get my 10% still, which I think is a great way of doing it, right? Because part of my concern would be loaning out to a newbie that wants a trial cup sort of atmosphere, but then at mid-season or at some point throughout the season in general decides this game isn't for me and to stop managing it entirely. Like, that would be a problem if I couldn't do anything to then manage my own club from there. Because then you're talking about potential consequences of losing all rev share if energy levels get too low.
Yeah.
Development sucks and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think there should be an option to be able to, like, even if it's changing permissions, like you said, at any time, or just cancelling outright. But I do wonder if that's something that can be built into that offer, where if you're giving someone a strong squad, it's like, brother, if you're on the relegation zone, you're in the bottom 4, bottom 3 by mid-season, like, this auto comes back to me. You ain't got to, and you maybe get like 5% out of 10%. But that is probably a bit too in depth. Maybe something they can incorporate down the line. I wouldn't expect that sort of automatic trigger to be in the first instance of Club Delegation. If they were to ever bring that feature, it'd be something later down the line. But I would like to think that if something isn't going well, that you have the option to then bring it back, because it's tough to know, because you can change permissions at any time. Does that mean you can then retrieve it back at any time as well? It seems maybe if there's some sort of, if there's an inactivity on the website for more than 3 or 4 days, then you can bring it back, because sometimes it might not just be fair. It might just be variances done them in for the season, because we know that's definitely a thing, and things can't go your way sometimes. So I think it'll be an interesting one to see how it pans out.
Yeah, I do think, just like, it's not a thing yet when you sign players. Like, you can't do incentives for, like, oh, if this team finishes top 3, I'll take a less percentage sort of thing. I'm guessing there won't be a feature here in the first version of Delegation, but I think just as it would be good for players, I think it would be good for having that for clubs as well.
Yeah, it's going to be. I'm really excited for Club Delegation, and I'm going to ask you a question, Trust. I know you love that Norwich license. would you ever let me take ownership of it from a club delegation point of view for a season?
Well, for sure. Yeah.
I've got one condition as a potential candidate, someone who's
It would not be 5 at the back.
yes, you can read my mind, baby. It cannot be 5 at the back.
Yes, that can be done. It's not 5 at the back this season.
Okay.
I went ahead and made that adjustment for you.
Yeah. No, well, you just let me know when that Google form's up and running, and you better believe I'll be one of the first people to be filling that out.
You got it.
I mean, it's not. If we think about what the first club delegation ever was, it was Magos to Madrid with Calva, and people had to. They basically they filled out a form, like a job application, and said why they want it, and they delegated it based on that. Albeit that club got a free $2,500 to spend on the club.
I won't be doing that.
Yep. Okay. Maybe I have to have second thoughts on this on this Norwich license. But is there anything else you want to talk about before I get you to ask last guest's question?
Took some notes going into this. I don't think so. Oh, I guess we didn't really talk too much about retirement yet. Did we? We didn't talk.
No, we didn't talk about retirement. We could quickly pan over that because I remember we spoke about it on last week's episode with Taggart and how it might impact sort of like strength creep or maybe like maybe reward pack redemptions and how people utilize MFL. If they're going to save it, they're going to use it, they're going to hold on to it. So I just said the same thing but a different way there. And you said to me during the week that when it like you've opened, you're thinking about the next couple seasons selling or saving the MFL rather than opening. Is that correct?
Yeah. We had talked.
Is that because of the whole retirement timeline coming up, sort of thing?
The main reason is the fact that I kind of set my teams up for the next 4 seasons, so I've no reason to open new players.
4-season outlook, that's crazy.
3 seasons.
3 seasons. I mean, that's still crazy. 3-season outlook is crazy. Some people don't even know what they're doing next week on MFL.
Yeah, so I basically, if they had a retirement badge at all, and they were basically, actually no, I think if they were yellow, just in their first warning year, then I used them. But if they were orange or red, I just didn't even sign them to my clubs this season.
Mm-hmm.
I just loaned all those guys out. And that way I'm just kind of in the clear to use the same guys going forward. So I ended up loaning out about 59 players, a lot of which were retiring or mostly Legos. But yeah, just an interesting number is I have 2,800 non-retired players currently in my agency.
Yeah.
194 are in the retirement window. So it's about 7%. Wow. I forget what the normal average is, but I feel like that's pretty good compared to normal. But my goal going forward is going to be, as players retire, just buy common players to fill them every 3 seasons. And then, from that point on, just fill in the gaps and then reanalyzing clubs and reestablishing them with new players. And I don't think I'm going to try to replace an uncommon player every time one retires, so you can't get the right position right all the time with just opening a pack.
When retirements and things do become more frequent across the ecosystem, do you think, not that you'll condense clubs, because we know that's that's not even a thought in your mind when it comes to condensing clubs or removing clubs per agency, that it only goes, it's an up only number in the trust process agency. Do you think that maybe some of your like upper division clubs might suffer, or because you're gonna have so many common players, which obviously can fill out the Flints, the Sparks, etc. You're going to have a lot of these boomers who will be 40 and then got to like 90. Is it those that you intend to put onto those upper teams? Will you sell them to help fund the agency? Do you think that the top end of your agency will suffer a bit during this retirement?
I think a lot of what I'm looking to do is, it really just depends where the pack values are at the given time.
Yeah.
Over the last several seasons, I've seen it be common players and then like 85, 89 Legos and not much value in between. And so it's just been getting those two. And so, the middle of my agency has really been lacking being fed. And so I do see, like, in the long run, this is kind of goes back to a prior question. I guess I probably see more. So like I have 3 or 4 top end teams ideally. And then I have the rest being garbage. Or training grounds.
Yeah.
And seeing if I can progress some of those guys through those bottom end teams. And maybe I'd have 1 or 2 stone in ice and iron teams just to kind of progress some of those shooters. Um, but yeah, I definitely think my overall ice and stone part of my agency is going to fall apart long term.
For a man who owns so many clubs and players, do you loan in many players to your clubs?
I could be wrong, but I
3, I don't
there
know
was
all their
no
first names and last names.
there was no plan to loan in players this season. Um, However, I ended up being short on center backs just with how my rotations went, and so I loaned in a good amount of center backs. Frankly, mostly because of needing to hit minimum overalls for Spark, which I still think is stupid, for lack of better phrasing. Sorry. Um, I just don't like it whenever I like the fact that I can't demote, but I also don't like the fact that I can't put a 44 overall player in Spark because that player wasn't able, that club couldn't demote to a place, relegate to a place where I could use that player. But anyway, yeah, I loaned in a bunch of center backs, probably a total of like 12
Nice.
this season.
12 center backs. Right. Let's come on to our question from last week's guest, which was Mr. Taggart, who currently sits second bottom of Diamond. No, we love you, Taggart. He says, if there is one thing you could remove from MFL, what would it be? I jokingly said backgrounds, and obviously he was like, no, I mean actual things at MFL, not sort of those things. What is one thing you could remove from MFL? And then what would your question be for our next guest, Trust?
So if I want to be a crowd pleaser, I could say the Elastico dribbling is something I would remove. But from a selfish perspective, I'm going to say the dev center.
Oh, okay.
Because I think it would incentivize more clubs being bought, which I think is a good thing for my value of clubs. And it would also mean less players being developed. And so the ones that I'm developing have more value than the ones that people are finding on their own through the dev center that are spiking. And so I have 193 players in the dev center, so I still use it. My plan's not to going forward. And so, yeah, if I want to be completely selfish, I would say remove the dev center entirely, and that way I benefit.
Well, you say that's a completely selfish answer, which it kind of is, but you often do see discussions in the Discord that saying like, what is the point of dev center? Like, it's only 4 years or nothing is basically what some people say, all or nothing. And you're going as far as to say, remove it. If you had to remove one thing, you're not saying your opinion isn't just, oh, I just want to remove it. That would be like an unpopular opinion of one thing you had to remove would be the dev center. Right, then TTP, what's your question for our next guest, whoever that might be?
So I thought about this one for a while, and I think I got a fun one. So if a NFT was made resembling, or however we want to say our player cards, were made resembling your abilities to be an MFL agency manager, what would be your ratings? Then I have the 6 categories.
Okay,
this is an in-depth question.
Okay.
And so what's your overall? So between talent acquisition, so your ability to buy players, development, tactics and scouting, negotiations, and sustainability.
Ooh.
And public relations was the last one.
Public relations. So just repeat the question again.
Yeah. So if an NFT was made resembling your abilities to be an MFL agency manager, what would be your ratings? And so, like for me, I said talent acquisition, 82. Development, 92. Tactics and scouting, 50. Negotiations, 85. Sustainability, 88. PR, I think 90. I think I'm well liked, hopefully. So my overall was an 81. Tactics and scouting really dragging that down. But
what did you give yourself? Tactics and scouting, sorry. What did you give yourself?
50.
50.
Sometimes good, sometimes bad.
Yeah. Well, yeah. 50%.
They say like sometimes doing nothing with your tactics is the best thing, and so 50-50 chance of that happening.
Yeah. No, I like that's a good question. Make people think about, and then when I can either.
I'd love to hear your answer too, Jimbo. I'd love to see what
in next episode. I will also give.
Yeah.
I need a bit of time to think about that. And can you send me the question so I have the categories because I'll end up writing it down or something. Right. I think unless anything else we need to talk about, well, we spoke about a lot. Is there anything final you would like to chime in
I will
with?
just say, if anyone plans on filling out my Google survey, get those things done as well for yourself. Just to, whenever you're applying, I'm going to see how you rate yourself. It's going to be helpful for me to decide.
We look
No,
forward
but
to
it's
the
been great
Google
being
form.
on. Every time I watch a WenDirk, the one bummer about being on is the fact that I'm not going to watch myself talk. I never do that. So I won't be able to have anything to watch Monday night.
Oh,
I'll have some things to watch, just not as much things because there's other MFL content.
yeah.
But it was funny mid-episode when you're like, yeah, I'm playing this top team in my league this tonight. I almost went to go to my app to see how that game went. So I'm used to like hearing you talk about something and then checking to see how it went. But it hadn't happened yet. Maybe it happened by now, actually.
Oh, what the
Being,
game I mentioned
yeah.
about? I was briefly watching it. We lost 4-2. He didn't captain his striker to make him a 91. He kept it at 89. What a fraud! And he scored 2, and I think he scored 2. He scored 3. Sorry, one was a pen as well. He won 4-2, but because he lost the first game of the season, I'm joint second still. I'm third actually on goal difference, but I'm third with 12 points. He's second with 12 points, and someone's top with 13. So it's not all doom and gloom, but
I would say my Philly B team is playing right now. They're up 1-0, 35 minutes in. So hopefully we get that much closer to joining you in that Bronze League next season, if you happen to still be there. Hopefully you aren't there, but
well, if I'm still there, if I'm not there, I hope it's because I've been promoted and not relegated.
That's what I'm saying. Hopefully you're not there because you're moved up. But yeah.
There's no chance that happens, knowing me, and I just like being. I'm just such a big ambassador for the bronze division that I think it's just a good thing I stay in this division. So yes, Trust, thank you so much for coming on. Remember the hashtag this week's, folks, WenDelegation, to intensify our support and our impatience with delegation. Maybe you know, it is just around the corner. I'm hoping season 12 will be the season we see, or the season we get the announcement of when it will be being released. Although I'm not quite sure. Season 13 does. Can we just skip the number 13? Just go straight to 14. I'm not superstitious, just a little bit.
Just a little stitch.
If I was going to get relegated for bronze, it would be season 13. But anyway, folks, thank you all so very much for listening, and we'll catch you this time next week, an episode of the WenDirkCast. Thank you for listening.